Hi, I'm Regular Zach, and this is my limited set review for the Magic the Gathering Avatar The Last Airbender crossover set. Today I am talking about all the white cards in the set, and we are talking about them in the context of limited. So that's draft and sealed. We're not talking about standard or commander or constructed formats, anything like that. I'm going to be putting every single one of these cards on a rating scale from A to F. So A's are bombs. These are the best cards. They're the coolest ones and the ones that win you the most games, the ones you show off to your friends. B's are cards that actively pull you into those colors. In this case, it's going to be white. So cards that are like pick 5, you're like, ooh, maybe I should go into white. C's are cards that they make up a big part of your deck, but you're not really excited by them. But they are good. They're bread and butter of the format. D's are cards that you hope you don't have to play. They're just like, ugh, I guess it works. But if you have a couple D's in your deck, you're not really happy with it. And F's are cards that actively don't work at all in the limited format. They're just like terrible rares or cards that just like don't function correctly, and you should never put in your deck under any circumstances. We're going to start off with the commons, go to uncommons, rares, and then mythic rares. And the first card is Curious Farm Animals. It's a single white for a 1/1 creature, boar, elk, bird, ox. So all the critters you can see in this picture. And it says when this creature dies, you gain 3 life. And you can pay 2 mana, sacrifice this creature, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. So I guess the joke of this card is that when it dies, it's like food, and so you gain life when it dies. So that's kind of funny. But overall, I'm not really. This card seems fine. The extra text of destroying an artifact or enchantment is kind of nice, but the body's not that exciting. There is one rare that cares about a bunch of different types of creature types, so this card goes way up if you have that green rare, because it gets really strong. But I think besides that, I don't really love this card. If it died into an actual food token, I'd be a lot more interested because waterbending works with that. But the fact that you just, dies into life, and I don't really. I think you can play this card, but I'm gonna start off with a D for this card, like a D plus. I do like the artifact enchantment part. That is kind of nice, but overall, I'm not too happy with this card. It's not like a 1/1 flyer that would be really helpful for the Flyers deck. I didn't really feel like it fits anywhere, so I'm gonna give this a D plus. You could play it, but I'm not excited to play this card. Outside of if I have that one rare, that would be great. Next up, we have Yip Yip. It's a single white for an instant lesson at common. It says target creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. If that creature is an ally, it also gains flying. These combat tricks haven't been that exciting. We've seen the 1 mana white 2 +2/+2 card before. I guess the flying part is kind of nice. It might randomly come into play, but overall, this specific type of card hasn't been great. The lesson, subtype on this is important, but the lesson decks primarily are teamer colors, I think. So how much do we want it in white? I don't really know. I think overall, this is also probably a D plus. It's a okay combat trick, but it's not red. And firebending gives us mana during combat that's red, so I'm not really that excited to play this card in general. So I'm just going to give it a D. I don't think we're going to be looking for this card, and if it happens to sneak into your deck, I think that's okay. But I don't really think it's very good. Next up, we have Zhongzhong's Deserters, which is 1 and white for a 1/2 creature human rebel ally at common. It says when this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Okay. So it does say target creature, so it's not another creature. Fantastic. Love that. So at the very base, this is a 2 mana 2/3. They've been giving us a lot of 2 mana 2/3s, which I'm happy about. There are some counter synergy things going on. But overall, I think just having the ability to move the counters, put it wherever you need it to be, and at a base 2 mana 2/3, that seems like a C. Totally playable card. Not phenomenal, but a pretty good 2-drop. So C for Zhongzhong's Deserters. Next up, we have Compassionate Healer, which is 1 and white for a 2/2 creature human cleric ally. It says whenever this creature becomes tapped, you gain 1 life and scry 1. So with this, you can either obviously attack with it, and then you get to gain a life and scry 1 every time you attack, which scrying 1 early in the game, huge. That's so helpful. I think Surveil is just a little bit better for that, but overall, I don't know how many like graveyard synergies we have, especially in white, so I think that's fine. And this card is really nice because it works with all the water bending cards. So if you're tapping this for water bending stuff, obviously you can see that they're water bending in the picture, so that makes sense. You get to gain a life and scry one, which is an extra value that you can get, and maybe the gaining of the life feels okay when you're tapping your creatures, because you're probably not blocking with them in that case. So yeah, I actually think this is like another like bread and butter. Like this is like a C level card. I don't think it bumps into like the C plus where you're actively looking for it, but this is a pretty good 2-drop. I don't know if I'd like this one over the last one, which one would be better. But the synergies with this, I think, are stronger than the +1/+1 counters one. So that's pretty nice. But just like a C for Compassionate Healer. Next up, we have Path to Redemption, which is 1 and a white for an enchantment aura. It says enchanted creature. An enchanted creature can't attack or block. So it's a pacifism. And you can pay 5 mana, sacrifice this aura, and you exile enchanted creature, create a 1/1 white ally creature token, activate only during your turn. This is pretty cool. So pacifisms in general tend not to be as good as they used to be. There's a lot of stuff you can do with your creatures either by sacrificing them. That's a big thing in the set, sacrificing your permanents, as well as water bending your permanents. If your opponent has a water bend type deck, they might not care that much if it has pacifism. You're just like, okay, I'll tap it for water bending stuff. I can still use it. So the extra clause of exiling the aura so that you like, or sacrificing the aura, exiling the creature, you get a 1/1. It's just an ally, which is helpful, but I think getting the cardboard is nice. Getting the cardboard is great, and it does say during your turn, not at sorcery speed, so you can use your firebending cards to pay into this to sacrifice it. So I like that portion of it. This is like a C+. It doesn't crack into the B range because it's not an amazing removal spell, just because, like I said before, your opponent can still sacrifice stuff and tap their creatures. But the extra part where you get a creature out of it later in the game, I think that's pretty good. So C+ for this. I don't know if this is the best white common, but it's probably in the race. So something to keep thinking about. Next up, we have Razor Rings, which is 1 and white for an instant. It says Razor Rings deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. You gain life equal to the excess damage dealt this way. Great. 2 mana deal 4 is pretty good. I think it's like Gideon's something did that at one point. So this card, we've seen this before, but the extra text of like gaining some life is kind of nice, but not really synergistic. Overall, having to have the mana when they're attacking or blocking, as usual, you want it when they're attacking, because dealing 4 damage to a blocking creature is kind of awkward, because either you just kill it and then you just didn't really deal any damage because they still blocked you, or I don't know, it's just, maybe it's helpful if there's like double block situations. So it's still a good card. I think it's like a C to like a C+. I still think it's good, but this, like the last one, I think I'd rather have the aura to stop their creatures from attacking and blocking, as opposed to this card, which is, only kills small creatures and stuff like that. So this is usually like a C+ type of card. It doesn't scale super well until later in the game, so yeah, like a C+ for this. Next up, we have Avatar Enthusiast, which is 2 and a white for a 2/2 creature human peasant ally. It says whenever another ally you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. These are never that great. Like the 3 mana 2/2 body that like grows when something happens has never been a good card. And a lot of the times it's like when a creature dies, you get a +1/+1 counter on it or something. But it doesn't have evasion, it doesn't have trample, it doesn't fly, it doesn't have menace. It just gets kind of big. And I think this looks like the ally card that you're hoping you don't really have to play in your ally deck. So it just seems kind of like bleh to me. This is like a B, or sorry, this is like a D. A B, yeah. No, this is a D. I hope I don't have to play this card. I don't think it's going to be very good. It would be cool if it was better, because this card tends not to be great. But it also is like bad later in the game because it doesn't do anything when it enters. You just have to play more allies after it, and you're just kind of frustrated. If you're getting beat down on turn 3, you're like, oh, play a 2/2. It's just a 2/2. I can't block with it because I don't want it to die because it's going to get bigger. But then you lose a lot of life, and then Anyway, D for Avatar Enthusiast. Even though this guy's hilarious, I do enjoy this little comedy bit. Next up, we have Glider Kids, which is 2 and a white for a 2/3 creature human pilot ally. It has flying. And it says when this creature enters scry 1. All right, so this is a Windrake in white. This will be helpful because the white-blue deck is specifically flyers. And there are a couple cards that make your flyers a little bit cheaper. Some of them are rares, I think. So, but this one could benefit from that. And scrying 1 when it enters is pretty helpful. I guess it's a little better, obviously, than a Windrake because it does have 3 toughness. But yeah, I think this card will be a player for sure. And yeah, I like the extra text of the scry. It helps out the card a lot. It's still probably just like a C. But yeah, I like it. Glider Kids, C, especially obviously in the white-blue deck. Next up, we have Water Tribe Captain, which is 2 and a white for a 3/3 creature human ally soldier. You can pay 5 mana, and it says creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Yeah, you can go wide. The extra part that's cool about this is that if you do have this in a Boros deck and you have some firebending cards, you do get to attack and then just put all that mana into this. So that makes it a little bit better. So maybe the Boros deck likes this a lot. But every other deck kind of doesn't, I don't think. I think these abilities do come about. It's just because this is a 3-drop, I think it really ruins it for me. The 2-drops that have this feel a little bit better because you're like, yeah, I want a 2-mana 2/2, I can get some damage in, and then later it pumps my team. But the 3-drop slot is so important because there's so many cards that are really powerful at 3 and 4 that like, I don't know. I'm going to give this like a C-. I don't think you're ever, like, this will make it into your deck, and it will do things sometimes, but I never think you're going to be looking for this card. And I don't think it's terrible to have. I just think that it's fine. It's fine. C- for the Water Tribe Captain. Next up, we have Airbending Lesson, which is 2 and white for an instant lesson. It says Airbend target non-land permanent. So this is the first time we're seeing Airbend in this video. So what you do is you exile it, whatever you're airbending, and then while it's exiled, its owner may cast it by paying 2 generic mana rather than its mana cost. So you can do this to your opponent's stuff or your own things, just no lands, obviously. And then you get to draw a card that's like specifically for this, you know, this specific card lets you draw. But yeah, I think drawing a card is awesome off of this. You get a nice tempo swing, or you do get to save your own creature and get some of your ETBs back. So maybe if there's some good ETBs that you have, that could be really nice. I think this is pretty cool. I think this is going to work a lot better than we think. The 3 mana part makes me feel like I want to do it against my opponent most of the time. But drawing a card is huge on this. And the fact that it's a lesson that I'm actually actively wanting to play as opposed to Yip Yip, I think that bumps it up quite a bit. This also could be the best white common. I think this might be one of my front runners for it, even though it's not a like real removal spell or really a creature. But I think this card is going to be much better than it kind of feels, which feels like a tempo bounce play-ish. But you get a card. And usually when you're in blue and you bounce something and draw a card, it costs 4 mana, and this only costs 3. Obviously, your opponent doesn't have to spend all the mana again to recast it. But if you're bouncing like 2 drops, it's like, boom, you did it, right? So anyway, I think this card's pretty good. I think it could be the best white common. C+ for this. Still doesn't feel like a B, though. But C+ for the Airbending Lesson. Next up, we have another great white common, Kyoshi Warriors. 3 and a white for a 3/3 creature human warrior ally. It says when this creature enters, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. This card would be okay for airbending if you ever had any stuff like that, because obviously getting tokens is huge. We love getting cardboard. Drawing cards and getting more pieces of cardboard is always important in Limited. And this could be one of the cards that we need. The 4-drop slot for this is kind of awkward because usually we get this at 3, but the 3/3 body is pretty huge with the little friend. So this is another one of those, is this the best white common? I can't really tell. I think this one's probably a little bit weaker. I'm still going to give it a C+ because I like it and I want it to be in my deck. But the fact that it is 4 mana makes it a little bit more like, I'm not sure. But it does seem pretty annoying to come down and just like, you know, take up space on the board. C+ for the Warriors of Kyoshi. Next up, we have Sandbender Storm. Is this the best white common? I'm actually, white is kind of hard because nothing really jumps out at me. It all feels like it's kind of in the same range. So you'll have to tell me what you think about these white commons. But anyway, this is 3 and white for an instant. You get to choose one. So destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, or Earthbend 3. So Earthbending is where you get to choose a land that you control. It becomes a 1/1 creature. Sorry. The land becomes a 0/0 and it gains haste. And then you put counters on it equal to the Earthbended cost. In this case, it's 3 +1/+1 counters. And if that creature would die or it gets exiled, you return it to the battlefield tapped. So it means that your lands turn into creatures, which is awesome. And you don't get stone rained if they die, which is also awesome. I love the versatility of this card. I love that it's instant speed, because you could randomly have an instant speed 3/3 blocker if you have 5 mana. So that's pretty cool. Destroying big creatures is going to be really important, I think. I don't know, man. I don't know. This one also looks really good. So I'm going to give this a C+. Nothing feels like it's like the front runner. That's the best card. That's a B-. You know, I can't find that in white. I just can't. But this is another great one. So we'll have to see what the best white common is. I haven't decided quite yet, but it could be this one. I don't know. Anyway, last white common is Rabaroo Troop. Definitely not the best white common. It's 3 white for a 3/5 creature rabbit kangaroo at landfall. It has landfall. And it says whenever a land you control enters, this creature gains flying until end of turn, and you gain 1 life. And it has plane cycling for 2. So you could discard this card and get a planes and put it into your hand. So I feel like the plane cyclers the land cyclers have gotten significantly worse. A 5-mana 3/5 that sometimes has flying seems like not that much fun. It doesn't seem very impactful as like an actual card. And spending turn 2 to go get a planes, specifically in white decks, usually the white one seems to be pretty bad because you don't want to do that in white decks. You almost always want a 2-drop, right? Like in the flying deck, you want to have like 2s and 3s. In the sacrifice deck, like white-black, you want to have something on 2. You don't want to go fix your mana. Boros, you definitely want a 2-drop. And Celestia, you also want a 2-drop. So the white one, I think this is a D. I don't think you want to play this card. And the white one usually is one of the worst plane cyclers. The best ones tend to be like green and black. So I don't like this very much at all. Yeah, I hope I don't have to put this in my deck. Next up, we have the uncommons. This is Momo, Playful Pet. It's a single white for a 1/1 legendary creature, Lemur Bat ally. It has flying and vigilance. And says when Momo leaves the battlefield, choose one. You get to create a food token. You can put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, or you can scry 2. That's a lot of different abilities for this one little Momo. This is the 1-drop that we want. We don't like those barnyard animals. This is awesome. It's a flyer, so it goes in the flyers deck. It gets pumped up by all that stuff. And when it leaves, you have so many different things you can do. Like, getting a food token is nice. I mean, gaining life, whatever. But it does help for water bending. If you need to tap your artifacts, this gives you another artifact. So that's awesome. It also has vigilance, so you get to attack with it. And then water bend, which is really nice. Putting a counter on another flyer in the blue-white deck sounds great. And then scrying 2 if you need to find some gas. I don't know. It all works out to be pretty great. I'm going to give this card like a B-. I think that this has so much going on for 1 mana that I'm excited to play this card. And this is a really nice turn 1 play. Awesome. Great job, Momo. Next up, we have Earth Kingdom Protectors, which is a single white for a 1/1 creature human soldier ally. It has vigilance and says sacrifice this creature. Another target ally you control gains indestructible. I really like this ability, right? I love Selfless Savior, the 1 mana 1/1, sacrifice it, something gets indestructible. The ally part really makes this a bit worse to me. So it really wants to be in a specific deck, which is kind of frustrating. Instead of just like any creature. The amount of times where it's going to be like, oh, my best creature is a land or something, you know, this does say Earth Kingdom. So like if you're earth bending or something. So you really want to make sure you do have like the creature that you want to protect has to be an ally. So it probably just goes down to like, it's a playable card. I think it's a C. The Vigilance is kind of nice, but it's still just a 1/1, right? So it's not going to do that much with Vigilance. So ultimately, just kind of a C for this one. If you have an ally deck, it does go up a bit, but in general, I don't think we're too excited for this. Next up is Enter the Avatar State. It's a single white for an instant lesson. It says, until end of turn, target creature you control becomes an avatar in addition to its other types and gains flying, first strike, lifelink, and hexproof. Okay. So the avatar part doesn't matter. I don't think there's anything that actually cares about having an avatar. I think it's just for flavor. But flying, first strike, and lifelink, as well as hexproof, I think the card is primarily going to be used for hexproof purposes. This is just a 1 mana save your creature. But every once in a while, you're just going to kill somebody. Like, oh, it gets flying and lifelink. That's great. Even if you don't kill them, you're going to smoke them for a bunch and gain a bunch of life. Especially if you're like playing with maybe white-green likes this a lot because a bunch of your creatures are really big. Or you want hexproof for your flyers in the white-blue deck. Yeah, I think those are probably the ones that like it the most. I'm still going to give it like a C. It doesn't give indestructible. So there will be certain cases where it isn't super helpful. Though I guess the first strike is really helpful in combat, which kind of feels like it has indestructible, so I'm not really sure. This could go up to a C+, but I'm going to give it a C for now. The lesson part obviously helps a little bit as well. But it doesn't give a counter, which is really nice, or it doesn't pump it at all. It just gives it a bunch of keywords, which is cool, but maybe not exactly what we need. Next up, we have Invasion Reinforcements, which is 1 and a white for a 1/1 creature human warrior ally. It has flash. It says when this creature enters, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. Nice. We had a card just like this in Dominaria United that made a soldier or whatever. And it was awesome. It's 2 mana for 2 bodies. Great. We like that in all of our white decks. It fits. I mean, like white-blue, it's not a flyer, but it does waterbend, so that's awesome. Obviously, you can see waterbending in the actual picture. And yeah, this card's going to be great. I think it's like a B-. Like, you're pretty happy to see this card. You will get pulled into white if you see it, and actively looking for a card like this. Because if your opponent holds up white-blue on their turn and you're like, okay, are they going to counter my spell with like a quench or what's going to happen? And then they just play this. You're like, oh, right. They could just do that. All right, that's annoying. Yeah, I like this a lot. All the white decks are happy with it. And B- for the Invasion Reinforcements. Next up, we have Water Tribe Rallier, which is 1 and a white for a 2/2 creature human soldier ally. It has Waterbend 5. So you could spend 5 mana or tap creatures and artifacts in any combination to pay that 5 mana. It says, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with power 3 or less from among them, put it into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This is also a pretty good card. 2 mana for a 2/2 that draws you cards later in the game. Boros likes this. Like, Celestia will like this. I think Celestia is probably the deck that likes this the least because it's only creatures with power 3 or less. So Boros, Orzhov, and white-blue, Azorius, will like this card. I'm going to give it a B- as well. This is nice. I originally think I had it at like a C+, but even just talking about it, I'm like, no, this is great. You're going to be happy with this effect. I know it's just a 2/2, but I love 2/2s that then have abilities later in the game, and this is one of those. Next up, we have Airbender's Reversal, which is 1 and a white for an instant lesson. It says choose 1, destroy target attacking creature, or airbend target creature you control. I love that they're giving us these cards. We had one of these in like the Omen Path Spider-Man set, where it was like you get to destroy a creature or save your creature with hexproof. This obviously has like airbending tacked onto it, so it, does the actual set mechanic. But this is very strong. Destroying an attacking creature for 2 mana, that's awesome. That's great. And like being able to save your own creature, love this. Once again, this is like a B-. I'm happy to see this card. This is good removal and fairly good protection, as well as you get your ETBs back, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, this is B-. Like this card. Next up, we have Earth Kingdom Jailer, 2 and a white for a 3/3 creature human soldier ally. When this creature enters, exile up to 1 target artifact, creature, or enchantment an opponent controls with mana value 3 or greater until this creature leaves the battlefield. What? This is like a slew of great white uncommons. Man, the white commons I liked, but I couldn't really find the best ones. These uncommons, they're just here. They're here for you. And this one's awesome. This is just a straight B. Like a 3/3 that gets rid of one of your opponent's things. If it, at the very least, I guess like, no, it's mana value 3 or greater. So you can't get rid of their like tokens. So there is that little clause. But I think a lot of the time you're pretty happy to do this. And you can hit their lands with this. If they have an earthbended land, you can hit their land. It will exile it and bring it back, but it does like get rid of it, right? Like you do just kind of get rid of that creature, which kind of feels like blinking, like getting rid of a token, right? So I think this card is going to be great. You're going to be happy to see this in your packs. And yeah, Earth Kingdom Jailer's awesome. B. Next up, we have Team Avatar, which is 2 and a white for an enchantment. When a creature you control attacks alone, it gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. And you can pay 2 and a white and discard this card. It deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature. So you're kind of in the situation of like, if you are a little bit behind, you get to kill something, or if you're ahead, you get to pack on the damage and like keep attacking all the time. You do have to have creatures on the board for this to do anything. It doesn't give you a creature, doesn't draw you a card. So if you draw this late when you're really behind with no creatures, it doesn't do anything. I like the duality of it is kind of nice, but overall, I think it's like a C+, where there is power here. I do like the versatility, but without any creatures, it's terrible. If you do have creatures, it's going to be awesome. And pumping up your flyers or your Boros creatures, that sounds great. I like that. But it's just like a C+ for Team Avatar. Next up, we have Fancy Footwork, which is 2 and a white for an instant lesson. Untap 1 or 2 target creatures. They each get +2/+2 until end of turn. Sure, it is a lesson, so that does make it a little bit more exciting. I don't love my combat tricks being 3 mana. So maybe this is a card that we specifically want to play in Boros, because we get to have, maybe let's say that 2 of the mana is red from firebending, and then we just have to spend 1 mana to give 2 creatures +2/+2, and they untap. That's pretty nice. The untap is also kind of nice because you could waterbend, and then I guess you could play this before combat and untap them and attack. That's probably a really weak use case, but it is possible. And you can surprise, like ambush some of your opponent's creatures by untapping your stuff. But in general, this is kind of like a trap that people will fall into early in the format, and then I think the card kind of falls off after that. You lose a lot of use cases once people have been gotten by the untap thing. So I don't know, it's probably like a C-. I don't think I'm looking for this card. I would be surprised if it has a lot to do in the format. But I do see that certain decks will like it. I think Boros specifically will, because of the firebending thing. Next up, we have Glider Staff, which is 2 and a white for an artifact equipment. When this equipment enters, airbend up to 1 target creature, and it says equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has flying, and you equip for 2. This is pretty interesting. An equipment that's also a removal spell, kind of. It bounces your opponent's creature, gives you some tempo, and then you get to equip one of your creatures, and then it has flying. There's some stuff going on here. I don't know how good that is, though. Equipment that don't immediately equip to your creature tend to be not that great, but it does have a good ETB. But it doesn't have flash, so you can't use any of your firebending stuff on it, and you can't do it on your opponent's turn to, But the turn that it's like turn 5, you bounce one of their things and equip one of your creatures and attack. That's kind of cool. I think overall this is probably just like a C. The fact that it's kind of like a removal spell is nice, but I'm not jumping for joy over this. I would like to see it do some work before I start actually using it. I probably will let my opponents use it and beat me with it first. So we'll see if that happens. Next up, we have Aang, the Last Airbender. It's a 3 and a white for a 3/2 legendary creature human avatar ally with flying. It says when Aang enters, airbend up to 1 other target non-land permanent. And whenever you cast a lesson spell, Aang gains lifelink until end of turn. Okay, this is pretty cool. I love the creature that comes in and bounces your opponent's thing. That's like phenomenal, right? Like, we love cards that do that. This doesn't fully bounce something, but it, obviously, like we said before, it has use cases. And the fact that you can get lifelink when you get lessons is pretty cool as well. It has flying, feels pretty strong. I think this is probably just like a B. Like, it's got a really relevant ability when it enters. You can win the race in the air if you have enough lessons and stuff. Because imagine you like play this, you airbend something, you airbend lesson another card on the following turn, get lifelink, and keep your opponents off balance. They can never like actually block. That seems pretty nice. I like Aang. This uncommon Aang is pretty sweet. Next up, we have Vengeful Villagers, which is 3 and a white for a 3/3 creature human citizen. Whenever this creature attacks, choose target creature and opponent controls, tap it. Then you may sacrifice an artifact or creature. If you do, put a stun counter on the chosen creature. Very much the opposite of a +1/+1 counter, which is what I was about to say. All right, so you get to attack. You always tap. So that's nice. You always tap something, and you can choose whether you want to stun it. You would probably be very excited to stun it if you have like artifact tokens and you're not using them for anything else. So this could be really good. In Magic's history, creatures that attack and tap your opponent's stuff can be pretty strong. This one seems pretty good as well. I think the white-black deck is really happy to have this because it's looking to have a bunch of fodder. But you're also in like Boros that's really aggressive would probably be more like Black wants to sacrifice stuff, but Boros wants to actually like kill your opponent. So that's pretty nice. As long as you have stuff to sacrifice, it seems great. But even just attacking and tapping things is pretty good. 4 mana 3/3 obviously is... If this was a 3/4, I think I'd be really excited. But 3/3 does mean that it might just die. Though you can tap down the things that you're worried about it being blocked by. So I think overall, I'm just going to give this like a C+. I don't know if we're in the world where... I think a 4 mana tapper is a little bit less exciting than like a 3 mana one, right? So I think Territorial Hammerskull was the best one we ever had in Ixalan, and that was 3 mana, I'm pretty sure. So this one seems a little bit too slow for that, like, get it down early, your opponent can never block because you keep attacking and tapping their stuff. So yeah, I'm just going to give it like a C+. C+ for the Vengeful Villagers. Next up, we have Southern Air Temple, which is 3 and a white for a legendary enchantment shrine. It says, when Southern Air Temple enters, put a X +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, where X is the number of shrines you control. And whenever another shrine you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. This card is pretty interesting because obviously it looks like it wants to be in the shrine deck. And the shrine deck basically means we're bringing these back. Originally, we got shrines in Kamigawa, like OG Kamigawa, and there's one in every color. They're all uncommon, and they care about other shrines. And so there's a shrine for, you know, all the different colors. They all do different things. And usually the deck is going to be base green-blue, splashing everything else. And you don't always have a lot of creatures in that deck, right? So the white one almost seems to be like the weakest one for the actual shrine deck, because this card kind of wants to be in a deck that has a bunch of creatures. But when you're spending a lot of time trying to fix your mana so that you can play all of your shrines, this ability doesn't seem very good because your board's not going to be that wide, right? So it's kind of interesting because this card seems almost better in just like a Boros or like a Azorius deck, where you're like, yeah, it's 4 mana for an enchantment that I get to play, put counters on all my stuff, and then I'm going to airbend it and then recast it and put counters on it again. That's what it seems like, right? So then this card actually becomes pretty interesting in that use case. So in the Shrine deck, I think it's actually bad, but in an aggressive deck that wants to, like, this is part of the top end and you get to, you know, manipulate using it over and over again, it seems pretty good. So with airbending stuff, I think this could be quite good. If you can't airbend it, I think it falls off a little bit. But even just playing this in your Boros deck and being like, yeah, all the creatures I played so far get +1/+1 counters, that's nice. And you're like, sure. With that, I think it's probably just like a C+. If you get to manipulate it, it could go up into the B range. But I think you do actually want to play this card, just not in the Shrine deck, which is weird. Because it's a shrine. If this made tokens, it would go right into the shrine deck. But because it doesn't make any blockers, you probably, in the shrine deck, you tend to want to have things that you get to like block with so that you don't die. And this one is more of an aggressive archetype. So, yeah, pretty funny card. But yeah, play this in your like Flyers deck and you'll be really happy. Next up, we have Destined Confrontation, which is 2 white for a sorcery. Each player chooses any number of creatures they control with total power 4 or less, then sacrifices all other creatures they control. Huh. This at uncommon is pretty cool. I feel like we get abilities like this that's like a pseudo board wipe at rare. So the fact that this is more common is going to be really interesting. And it kind of is like, all right, so do you want to have like 4 1/1s and then they keep their 3/3 kind of thing going on? Or do you want to have a 4/4? I mean, it's white, so you're probably having more little creatures and you want to just like wipe their board. But also, I don't know, this is such an interesting card. There's so many different things that could happen with this. I think it is quite powerful. And if your opponent's trying to play really big stuff, you get to, wreck them. You're like, all right, I have 4 1/1s and you have a couple big creatures and you can't even keep all of them or any of them, right? Like, it does say like, hey, Gruul deck, all your creatures are 4 power. Which one do you want to keep? And if they have like a 3/3 and a 2/2, they just have to keep the 3/3, I guess, and you get rid of the 2/2. Obviously, that's not that exciting. But I do think the use case of this card is quite interesting. Because of that, I want to play it. So I kind of feel like I just want to give this a B. But I can also see where it wouldn't be great because you want to have a lot of creatures and your opponent only has a couple anyway. So if you have to sacrifice too many creatures, it's not awesome. I don't know. There's a lot of things going on with this card. I think I'm just going to give it a B. I think it's going to be good. I think this card is going to be good. I just don't see this at uncommon. So maybe that's proof that this effect isn't good enough at rare. Or is it that it's great and we want to see it more often? I don't know. But I'm going to give it a B. I do like this card. Also, what a sweet showdown. So good. Next up, we have Master Piandao. Piandao. How do you say his name again? Piandao. Yeah. It's 4 and a white for a 4/4 legendary creature, human warrior ally. He has first strike. It says whenever he attacks, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal an ally, equipment, or lesson card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So you attack and draw cards, and a 4/4 first strike is pretty good. I do like a 4/4 first strike. You only get allies, equipment, and lessons. The equipment part obviously is flavorful because he's like the sword master. So that makes sense. And he like helps Sokka build his meteor sword. But I think drawing lessons here and allies could be nice. Is this the 5-drop that we're really looking for? I don't know. I do like drawing cards though. I don't know. I'm going to give this like a C+. I don't know if this is a B level card where you're like, oh, sick, I get to play this. But a 4/4 first strike is a problem. So, especially when you're like getting more gas as you're going. And I don't know which deck we're like specifically looking for in this. I don't know if it fits into Boros because maybe it's too expensive, but it does draw you some more gas in that deck. And there is a situation where it's like you could attack with this and some of your firebenders. You get mana, you find a lesson, you get to cast the lesson off of the mana that you got from the firebender. So in that situation, it seems really exciting. But that does feel like Magical Christmas Land. You have to get it on the top and blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to give this a C+. I like it, but it's not... I could also see this card kind of wheeling because it's like, it's too expensive for a white deck. You know what I mean? Next up, we have Gather the White Lotus, which is 4 and a white for a sorcery. Create a 1/1 white ally creature token for each planes you control, and then you scry 2. Huh. I really like cards that reward you for being like monocolored or very heavy in one color. And this set has a whole cycle of them. So this is the white one. And making, like, let's say you're playing a mono white deck, right? If you do go full mono white, this says 5 for 5 mana, you get 5 1/1s and you scry 2. I mean, that is kind of what it's telling you to do. Playing this in like heavy white decks obviously is useless. But this in combination with the like Southern Air Temple where you get to put counters on them is kind of interesting. And and then you're airbending some stuff and you're just getting tons of counters. And I don't know. This seems cool. I like this card. I like a lot of the designs for these, this cycle as well. I don't know if this is the best one because some of them have flashback. And but the getting the creatures, this can get you so many creatures if you're playing mono white or a very heavy white deck. So I think that this actually is a B. But it has to be built around. You have to be going into the mono white deck, or basically white splash for like 3 red cards. Do you know what I mean? Which won't happen all the time. That's why it's either like a D, because it's just, oh, I can't even play this card. It's not even worth it. Because 5 mana for like 3/1/1s and Scry 2, that doesn't seem horrible. But I love that the ceiling is pretty high. And the floor is 5 mana 1/1 Scry 2, which is horrible. So yeah, I think this is cool. I'm going to give it a B. And it's probably like a B+ if you're mono white. But I might be evaluating some of these ones a little bit higher just because I like them and I like when they add these cards to these sets. I think it's worth trying. And this one seems pretty good to me. So yeah, Gather the White Lotus gets a B. Next up, we have Appa, Loyal Sky Bison, which is 4 white for a 4/4 legendary creature bison ally with flying. It says whenever Appa enters or attacks, choose one. Target creature you control gains flying until end of turn. Airbend another target non-land permanent you control. So either you get something flying or you airbend your own stuff. So that is pretty important. You don't get to get rid of their blockers or whatever. But 6 mana, this enters, give one of your creatures flying. And then every time you attack, you just give something flying. That can be nice. Or you need maybe some extra ETBs by like airbending some of your stuff. That seems pretty good. It is still 6 mana, but it does seem like it could end games where you're like, okay, I got the ground covered, we're all fine, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, I'm going to take like maybe 3 in the air and then 7 every other turn. That's pretty brutal. Even making a 2/2 with this is like making it fly is pretty frustrating. So as well as maybe I think the airbending part is the worst part of this because it doesn't have flash, so like you're not saving your creature. So for the most part, this is probably just, you're giving people a ride, which is what Appa does, so that makes sense. But it's still kind of expensive. You probably only want 1 in your deck. So it's probably like a C+. Like it's totally fine. But if I see this card, I don't know if it's a signal to go into white. But I think it's a pretty powerful card. But like C+ for Appa. This version of Appa. Next up, we have the rares. So this is the rare Momo. Momo Friendly Flyer is a single white for a 1/1 legendary creature, lemur bat ally with flying. It says the first non-lemur creature spell with flying you cast during each of your turns cost 1 less to cast. And whenever another creature you control with flying enters, Momo gets +1/+1 until end of turn. All right, so the non-lemur part of this doesn't really matter because the only lemurs are Momo and then the other Momo. So that's pretty fine. And that Momo can't be discounted anyway because it's just 1 mana, so who cares? Making some of your flying creatures cheaper is pretty nice. You do get to just like time walk your opponent in your Azorius deck. That's probably the best part about this card, right? The +1/+1 when creatures with flying enter is fine, but I don't think we don't have a lot of flying tokens. We have like spirit tokens that kind of have like shadow, but they don't have flying. So it's not like you're going to play something that's like, oh, I got 3 flyers out of nowhere. Momo's huge. Like that's not going to happen. So it really just is like on turn 1 you get to play this, and then maybe on turn 2 you get to play like glider kids or some of the 3-drop flyers, that's a pretty big beating if you're like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I'm just getting smoked because they got to time walk me or ramp into these cards. So that's pretty cool. But I don't know. Would I rather have the uncommon Momo than this one? Uncommon Momo feels like there's a lot more utility and stuff, and this one specifically goes in flyers. This is like, I'm like blue-white card, and the other Momo is like, I go in any deck, right? I think you're happy to have this, but I don't know if you need to like start the draft off with this. So I really think that this is probably just like a C+. In the Azorius deck, it's probably a little bit better. But, I mean, 1 mana, 1/1 flyers, I always like in general. And the fact that it does hit for a little bit more damage every once in a while is kind of nice. And it holds counters really well, all that normal things that 1-mana flyers do. But I think I might prefer the uncommon Momo over this one. It fits into more decks. This one really just fits into a specific deck. So C+ for this Momo. Next up, we have South Pole Voyager. It's 1 and white for a 2/2 creature human scout ally. Whenever this creature or another ally you control enters, you gain 1 life. If this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, draw a card. Hell yeah. This loves that reinforcements card where you like play it, like you play this, you get to hold up mana, you flash in that one, you gain 2 life, draw a card. It's also just like as you're playing all your creatures, you're drawing cards. Anything that makes allies, the Kyoshi Warriors, boom, you get to draw a card. Like, I don't know, this seems pretty sweet. I like this a lot. It's specifically, obviously, in the ally deck, but like, this is a good reason to be in that. And it gives you, I don't know if it's going to be like your best card. Like, this doesn't just win the game, so I'm not going to give it an A, but a B+. In the ally deck, this is like I have to kill that, because that's how I'm going to lose the game. Is they keep gaining life and drawing cards, and then they get to keep playing creatures and double spelling allies, and you know the board is huge and I can't do anything about it. So this card, you're looking for this. See, a B+ if you're in that ally deck, very strong. Next up, we have Airbender Ascension. This is part of a cycle. There's ascensions for all the different bending types. So there's 4 of these. This is 1 and a white for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, airbend up to 1 target creature. And whenever a creature you control enters, put a quest counter on this enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if this enchantment has 4 or more quest counters on it, exile up to 1 target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Cool. So this is kind of like a 2-mana removal spell. So you get to bounce something or airbend something. And then as you play more creatures, it gets more quest counters, and then you get to flicker your stuff. So definitely a cool card. I do like it. I don't know how strong it is, really. We do have some good ETB stuff, right? Like there's a couple things that make tokens and do things like that. So that would be really nice. If you keep blinking your reinforcements or your Kyoshi Warriors or whatever, you get a bunch of tokens. That would be probably one of the best things you could do. So that's pretty nice. I think we probably like this the most in like white, blue, or maybe white, red, even, because you get pseudo vigilance if you do it. And then obviously we want to get huge boards. So yeah, it's cool. The quest counter thing, it feels a little slow. It will happen because you will be playing creatures. Like, it's not like you have to jump through any hoops to actually get the quest counters on it. You just have to make sure that your deck wants to flicker stuff. But 2 mana to airbend something is pretty nice. So I'm gonna give this like a C+. It's not phenomenal to me, but it could impress us a bit. It just it needs a little bit of a build around. Next up, we have Suki, Courageous Rescuer. Is 1 white for a 2/4 legendary creature, human warrior ally. Other creatures you control get +1/+0. And whenever another permanent you control leaves the battlefield during your turn, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. This seems pretty sweet. This is very good. This is like an anthem. It's obviously double white, but Boros wants to have this card. You want to play this in the Azorius, and you want to play this in Celestia. Orzhov will care because of the leaves the battlefield thing, so it goes in that deck as well. So there you go. It goes in all the decks. You get to, like, in Orzhov, you do get to sacrifice your stuff and then make more tokens, which is really nice, and keep your tokens pumping out. In Boros, you get to attack with your stuff, and when there's trades, you get to make more allies so that you get to win more combats and attack continuously. This seems great. This seems really strong. This is like an A, like an A- maybe. No, I think because it goes in all the decks, I think maybe Celestia is the one that cares a little bit less about it, but all the other ones are stoked to have this card. Yeah, this is like an A. Suki's awesome. Man, she's just the best. She's just the best. Next up, we have Aang's Iceberg, which is 2 white for an enchantment. It has flash. It says, whenever this enchantment enters, exile up to 1 other target non-land permanent until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. And then you can waterbend 3, so you can spend 3 mana or tap your artifacts and creatures to help. And it says, sacrifice this enchantment. If you do, scry 2. So it's either just like Banishing Light, where you get to, like, it enters, you exile your opponent's thing, and it just sits there, and you're fine. Or you can save yourself, which is what Aang's iceberg did. He made the iceberg to save himself. So you can flash this in, save your creature, and then at some point you can sacrifice it to scry 2 and get your creature back, which is pretty sweet. Yeah, I like this a lot. The only thing is it does say non-land, so there will be situations where it's like you're getting beaten down by earthbended lands and you can't do anything about it with this card. But besides that, this just seems like a very versatile like removal spell / protection spell. So this gets a B, maybe even a B+. Yeah, I'm going to give it a B. I'm just going to keep it at a B. But I like it a lot. It's a very good card. Very strong. I love things that are versatile. It's so nice. Next up, we have Hakoda, Selfless Commander. It's 3 and a white for a 3/5 legendary creature, human warrior ally. He has vigilance. It says you may look at the top card of your library at any time, and you may cast ally spells from the top of your library. You can sacrifice him, and creatures you control get +0/+5 and gain indestructible until end of turn. This is a good card. You do have to be in the allies deck, obviously. But 4 mana for a 3/5 vigilance that draws you cards, and then you can attack with a bunch of things, and there's always the threat of activation of like, okay, so everybody basically gets indestructible. Yeah, it's just creatures. It's not just allies get indestructible. So that goes a very long way. And obviously drawing your cards, if you have allies, you get to cast them off the top. That's really cool. Oh, this card seems really strong. Yeah, actually, honestly, I originally had this at like a B+, but let's give this an A-. I think this card's pretty sweet. And the threat of I'm going to sacrifice this to save all my creatures is so annoying that you just, it is so much more frustrating to deal with when you're like, oh my God, I have to kill them. But like, all these trades are not going to be trades. It sucks. Yeah, the +0/+5 is pretty interesting because it does also do this thing where it's like, if you are trying to hold back against some big tramplers, not only do your creatures get indestructible, but you also soak up way more damage. So you do get to fight against the big trampley decks, which is really helpful. Because normally you don't really care about having more toughness if you're going to be indestructible anyway. But I like that extra little use case of like, yeah, if there's a giant trampling creature, we won't die, which is awesome. So yeah, A- for Hakoda. Awesome. Next up, we have Avatar's Wrath. This is pretty interesting. It's 2 white for a sorcery. It says choose up to 1 target creature, then airbend all other creatures. Until your next turn, your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands. And of course, you have to exile Avatar's Wrath. Okay, so you get to choose your best creature, airbend everything else. And then you can still cast your creatures if you have more mana. And then your opponent, there's an entire turn that they don't get to cast their creatures. So it really does feel like a Wrath. If you have one really big creature, this would be awesome. I like this a lot in like Celestia, where you're like, yeah, my giant creature gets to stay, wipe everybody else's stuff. I get to smoke you for a bunch. And then next turn, you can't even recast any of your stuff. Because usually if you do like a mass bounce thing, it's like your opponent gets to rebuild their board first. But this way you're forcing them. So it's like, no, I get to rebuild my board first. And hopefully in that situation where you're playing green, it's like all my creatures are cheaper than if I had bounced them, right? This card looks quite strong. I'm just going to give this like an A. I think this is one of those cards where you're like, I do not want this to happen to me. And it will be one of those like, okay, I can't lose the game. And there's like, nope, airbend everything, smoke you for 5 or something. And you can't recast your cards. If you're just top decking, you're screwed. Like, that's great. Great card. A for Avatar's Wrath. Next up, we have the Mythics. Getting to the end of this here, folks. We have United Front, which is X white for a sorcery. Create X 1/1 white ally creature tokens, then put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Whoa, that's a lot. That is great. 4 mana make 2 2/2s. That's good. 5 mana make 3 2/2s. That's good. And it just goes up and up from there. This card's very strong. This card is one of the ones that you're looking for. If like, I would love to first pick this card and be like, yep, I want to play white. Let's go wide. Let's go. This card's great. I like it a lot. Yeah, this is an A, maybe an A+. This is awesome. United Front is strong. The +1/+1 counters on each creature, not just your allies and not just the tokens you made, but each creature is also fantastic. So yeah, this card, this is this is a this is the like top deck of your dreams, right? And building situations where it's like, okay, I'm going to take some damage. It's fine. I just want to keep my creatures around, and then I slam this for X is 4, X is 3. Totally reasonable and still phenomenal. Like, I still think, playing this for 4 mana is still a really good deal. And that's where I'm like, hell yeah, buddy. If you had to get up to like crazy numbers, if this was like XX white, it would be like horrible. But because it's, I don't think I'd want to cast this for 3 mana. Like 3 mana, get a 2/2 and put counters on everything isn't phenomenal, but it depends on your board state. But once you get to 4 and 5, like, I'm totally fine with that. And then if X is 4 or more, like, you're just laughing. Amazing card. It's an A+. This is probably the best white card that you could possibly get. It's so good. Next up, we have Appa, Steadfast Guardian. It's 2 white for a 3/4 legendary creature Bison ally. It has flash, it has flying, and when Appa enters, airbend any number of other target non-land permanents you control. So you get to save a bunch of your stuff. And it says, whenever you cast a spell from exile, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. So your opponent's trying to, kill one of your creatures or wipe your board, or like there's a lot of blocks that you have that you're going to lose a bunch of your creatures. Flash an Appa, airbend all of them, and then recast them for 2 on your following turn, and then make like a bunch of 1/1s. It also is a 3/4 flyer. This card's great. I also think that this is probably like an A-. I originally kind of had it at, B range, but I don't know, it just seems like it does so much, and you get to populate your, like, the token part is so strong, and you're in white, we're going to be doing a lot of airbending anyway, probably. Or if your opponent is white and they're airbending your stuff, this is nice. I don't know, this just seems great. Get all your ETBs again. Imagine like having any of your token creators and you're like, oh, I'm going to airbend them back. Then make a bunch more tokens. Plus the tokens you're making from this. It's just so good. Appa, great job. Awesome Appa. Next up, we have the last card. This is our last white card for the set. And it is a saga. It is the Legend of Yang Chen. It's 3 white, and it has 3 chapters. It says, starting with you, each player chooses up to 1 permanent with mana value 3 or greater from among permanents your opponents control. Exile those permanents. All right, let's just talk about this first one, because it's kind of funky. So 2 players get to choose up to 1 target permanent with mana value 3 or greater from among permanents your opponents control. So it's talking about your opponents as in you. So like not the person that's choosing, but your opponents, right? So when we play this in 1v1, it's worded in a way that it could work in Commander. That's why it's confusing. But it's 1v1. You get to choose one of your opponents' things that are mana value 3 or greater, and then they get to choose one of their things that's 3 or greater. So really what's going to happen, it's 5 mana, and you get rid of one of their 3 mana value things, and they choose nothing. They don't also get to choose one of your things, right? It's confusing because the next part says, chapter 2 is, you may have target opponent draw 3 cards. If you do, you draw 3 cards, right? So that's why the first part feels weird. But like, it's your opponent's. When I read this card over and over again, I kept thinking, wait, I play 5 mana and I let them exile this? That's dumb. I don't want this at all. But no, that's not how it works. So it's 5 mana, you get rid of one of their things, and then you can choose if you want your opponent to draw 3 cards, and then you get to draw 3 cards. Oftentimes you don't want your opponent to draw cards, but it might be helpful because chapter 3 you get to exile the saga and return it transformed, and it comes in as Avatar Yang Chen. It's a 4/5 legendary creature avatar with flying, and it says whenever you cast your second spell each turn, airbend up to 1 other target non-land permanent. So drawing those cards could be really helpful for you because you have this card that's going to let you, when you double spell, you get to get rid of their permanents. And if they're playing stuff, you might have enough tempo that you could get rid of their things because you got rid of one of their cards, then you draw some stuff, and then you get to smoke them with this. So you also get to play your cards first when you draw them. So I think in general, you probably just want to let them draw cards. Obviously, it depends on your board state. And if you have a bunch of cards in your hand and they don't, obviously, you're not going to let them draw cards. But this is a pretty cool card. I think this is strong, and it once again feels like an A. or a B plus. 5 mana get rid of their biggest thing. Then you draw 3 cards, they draw 3 cards. But then you get to Airbender stuff. I think you can just win the game from this place, though. I'm going to give it an A minus. Honestly, I had a lot of these as Bs, and then they all kind of spiked up as I was like reading them again. So this card seems so good. Like a 4/5 flyer is really strong. It's going to flip unless your opponent can kill it somehow. But you get to get rid of one of their things and choose whether they're drawing cards or not. I don't know. It seems like you're going to win after this. You airbend their blockers. Boom. Bing, bing, boom. Game over. You win. Yeah. Go Team Avatar. But yeah. Anyway, folks, that is what I think about every single white card from the set. There are videos for all the other colors, so check those out. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And let me know what you think the best white common is, because the jury's still out. I have to pick one, but I don't know what it's going to be quite yet. But anyway, folks, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.